Hello and a very warm welcome to the fresh new episode of Students' Time. This is Sakshi Kulkarni, your host for this week. Every week we update you on what is happening in the field of education, politics, economics, business, entertainment, science, technology, research and innovation. But this week, we bring you an exclusive interview of the Nobel laureate Professor Dr. Paul Kabat, who said that the 21st century has become the age of biology. With major discoveries to come from life sciences, key technological and human progress from a convergence between life science, engineering and artificial intelligence. So let's watch this exclusive interview of Professor Dr. Paul Kabat with Students' Time.
Hello and welcome to the Students' Time. My name is Prasida and today I am in a conversation with Professor Dr. Paul Kabat, Secretary General of Human Frontier Science Program Organization, HFSPO, and co-recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize 2007. Welcome to the Students' Time, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here.
We are pleased to have you. Sir, if we look at your profile, you have done your education in various fields. So currently you are heading in an organization that is supporting more of basic biology. So initially, we would love to know that how do you fit in everything together so well? As such, if the students perhaps are interested in both the subjects, so what would be your roadmap to guide them in order to understand the subject better or to understand their role as a budding scientist better?
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for having me here. It's my great pleasure to be here in this wonderful campus and to meet the students and the professors and the scientists here. So I was trained as a mathematician originally. I love mathematics and I did a lot of calculations, but I sort of discovered that mathematics only without being connected to some of the more specific problems is a little bit dry, so I went more to the physics. And then later from physics mathematics to actually try to solve some of the pressing problems. And initially I was interested in water. So we have been building hydrological models and try to understand how water flows through the soil and through the atmosphere and how it's being transported. And I was doing that based on the fundamental physics and mathematics and hydrology knowledge then. Because I'm a mathematician, I'm interested in computers. And in late in 80s, around 1985, 1990, I got my first access to the supercomputer. Great. And that changed completely my perception, because suddenly the fundamental mathematics and physics and biology as well, got solved by the big computational resources. So I've been building models of climate, of weather, of the ocean. I've been looking into how the biosphere, the land vegetation interacts with climate and with the ocean. So building this all together. And because we had the supercomputers, we got a little bit detached from the fundamentals of this discussion. So, for example, we knew that terrestrial vegetation or the vegetation, the marine biota, they are very important in governing the Earth system. But it was too complicated and it was too difficult. So we just went on with our numerical solutions for the world problems then. And I know that those solutions, which are now based on the big models for the issues like climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation, they are based on the models which are not perfect. So when I was going through my career, I'm professor at the university in Netherlands. I have had more than 50 PhD students. I became director of the International Institute in Austria, to which, by the way, your current vice chair was the member of the board of trustees. Oh. Then I went from there to be chief scientist of United Nations in Geneva. All these things was connected to the big system thinking and big models. But I realized that we are missing something. And that is to reconnect back to the fundamental science, to the fundamental life part of the system, because the system is living, right? It's not an inert system then. So when I got an invitation from the G7 countries, which are countries which founded this organization, to come to this wonderful International Human Frontier Science Program, which is meant to harness the best science across the world from the living system, not only biology, for the benefit of humankind, I saw this is a major opportunity. So I came there and I have been there now for 1.5 years. I think we are doing a tremendously important job trying to bridge between the fundamental life science and the environmental and big challenges of this world, but also harnessing the fundamental life science towards innovations. Because, we are living in the interesting times. I call this the century of biology. If you look back 200 years, 19th century, that was engineering, really, steam engine and industrial revolution, which brought the progress to the humanity, right? Last century was physics and chemistry, which brought a major progress. In this century, as we speak today already, it will be the convergence or fusion between the living systems and the engineering, which will be the talk of the day. Biopharma, biorobotics, biokinetics, biomaterials, bioremediation, all of that is happening. I will talk about it in my lecture today. There are already estimates that bio-driven innovations, biotechnology, will be good for 30% of the global income, global economy. In India, there is a projection done by DBT that India in 2025 would have $150 billion US part of the economic sector based on bio-innovation. So I think this is a very relevant discussion. Biology is back because we forgot a little bit about the living part of the system, and I am very, very happy that I could contribute to this discourse, which is important for both better understanding of the issues like water cycle, climate, but also into the most important innovations which will bring humanity this century to the next stage, so to speak.
All right. I got introduced to so much within a few minutes. Thank you for that. The next question, what is something that you got so passionately involved in your respective subjects, be it biology, hydrology, or mathematics?
I think the most fascinating thing is the completely surprising, unpredictable way how the living system react to the environment. I mean, just give you a couple of examples. The living systems, they can adapt, they can grow, they can protect themselves. The interactions between disciplines, between physics and chemistry and biology is most fascinating. And I do believe that the major discoveries will come from these interactions. My international organization, which is now 32 years old, brought 28 Nobel Prize winners. And that is, I think, testimony to the way when you put the human brain in a bottom-up way at work, when you don't limit people by bureaucratic administrative structure. And so we have been promoting this, biology, life science, together with physics, together with chemistry, together with data science, and it brought this amazing number of, prizes. But it also brought a major innovations. I will talk about it this afternoon. And so, to me, the most fascinating is interdisciplinarity. The frontiers of disciplines when they come together, and when they bring us a lot of surprises, both in positive and negative sense. There is one more thing which I find fascinating. And this is something which I think is crucial. In all the discussions about the future of the economy, of the science, earth science, we are sometimes forgetting that it is really human behavior, human cognition, which will make a difference. In the end, we are listening to the news and we are reading scientific articles, right? But it will be you and I and all these colleagues in the room here who decide how we behave in the future, how much we actually accept of the challenge. So the human behavior, human cognition, to which drivers we are responding, right? Actually to change our behavior in the future, this is a very important problem. Again, this is being studied by fundamental biology, brain biogenetics, for example. So again, bringing the fundamental biologist on table will help us to understand how the human behavior in the future should change and will change because of all these threats and opportunities we are facing. I mean, COVID is a good example, right? Yes. COVID hit us all, and India was very, very much hit by both waves in this context. We don't understand yet what this kind of 2 years did to our brains. We don't know exactly what is the long-term effect on it. We don't know exactly what happens to our cognition and to the way to perceive. We are all, I think, in India, you are a very big one. We are all, working all day with these things, right? When I was a student, In 1977, I started my university. Then I had my first little calculator. It was a Sanyo, I think. And you know, it was forbidden by our president. We couldn't, by our university, to have it. So we were still doing calculations. And my morning exercise was, I love mathematics, so I was always, doing processing, in my head, derivations, etc. I loved it. My students now, they don't even know how to write an equation, because everything is available through these things. So I am very concerned what will happen to human cognition, to human brains, in this violence of the IT revolution. So this is a good question. I mean, is humanity depending on their own brain, or do we kind of, outsource our brains to these little things, right? So biology again. We need to get biology again to understand this type of processes.
All right. So, sir has given a wonderful insight about how every human brain perceives differently and how everyone would think differently in any situation of that concern. Moving on ahead, sir, we are also keen to know that in the age of biology, can biology progress alone, or we should be calling it more of an interdisciplinary science or AI-dominated biology?
Definitely the latter two. And I will like the interdisciplinarity. The biology itself, as it used to be biology, of course, it's already much more than that. It reached out to other disciplines. We have a physical biology, we have a computational biology, etc., etc. And so it won't be a field as a biology. It will be reaching out. I was visiting United States recently. We have been talking to the major funding agencies and major academies, and we are actually talking about horizontal biology. Horizontal means that the biology is reaching to the geosciences, it's reaching to the artificial intelligence, to data. So it's definitely strictly trans and multidisciplinary what will happen in the future. That's one of the things which I would like to say. Then, you mentioned AI. Yes, the data science, of course, will become a major improvement, but there is also a little threat in it, right? Remember what I mentioned at the beginning about my own career. When I got a supercomputer in the 80s, it was just number crunching, and I'm a little bit afraid that we may be over-enthusiastic about AI, because AI mathematically is a very simple thing. You get a lot of data coming from everywhere in the world, and you just try to write algorithms, how they are connected. You don't really need to go to understand the behind processes. And I think we should be careful not to get too much excited and not to forget about the fundamental science we need to as well. So I'm very much for the fusion between the AI and the fundamental science, which should be kept going. The only AI will not solve the big problem. It will be a solution on the short term, and we need both together. So multidisciplinarity, including data science, AI will be the talk of the day, and definitely biology will not be leading the world. It will be a combinations.
Yes. Context, biology has always been so much about everything. It includes various aspects, not just any focused on any particular topic. Sir, as we are growing, we see a bleak future. There is climate change, then degrading environment, we have loss of species, and also there are a number of noisy solutions to it. But I would like to know what, according to you, would be the concrete steps that would really matter, and how would we convince people for the same?
Thank you very much. Again, this is a question which we can discuss probably for a couple of days, and still we will have enough to discuss about. So let me just try to focus on a number of things. So first, the whole sustainable transformation, right? Because you mentioned all the challenges we have: climate, oceans, biodiversity, food security, the health, all of that. There are 17 United Nations Development Goals, which we have up front. We call it Agenda 2030, and we are trying to transform to the more sustainable world. Let me be very realistic. We will not be able to do that, not by 2030. Mm-hmm. The United Nations resolution, of course, a resolution, but in the practice, we are not moving very fast. Let me also be very transparent that in many of these fields, including climate, energy, this is not really a question anymore of the technology and knowledge. We have enough knowledge in many of these fields to trigger action, which should be carefully designed to be a no-regret action. right? Because we have not definitive knowledge. Let me give you an example. I'm coming from Netherlands, as you probably know, and I've been also a member of the State Commission, which was supposed to be worried and put up scenarios about what happened to my country in 2050, because we are below sea level. Maybe interesting for you to know, 70% of country is below sea level. When you come to my capital, Amsterdam, you land on the airport and you don't realize that the airport runway is 6 meters below sea level. So we are all protected by dikes and everything. And of course, when sea level gets up and everything, then we are worried on this one. So we have developed a strategy and plan for the next 100 years, which was adopted by law as a law in Netherlands. We call it Delta Plan. But of course, we don't know if the sea level rise in 2050 will be 1 meter or 85 centimeter or 40 centimeter. So instead of building, big concrete dikes, we propose a flexible solution. So instead of that, we are going to use a system of, we call it sand suppletion. Mm-hmm. So take sand from the bottom of the channel between England and Netherlands, and to put it on our coast to increase the height of the protection. If you think about it, it seems to be very simple and very stupid, right? Actually, it's very clever, because when you do this suppletion, it's adjustable. When you see sea level going up faster, you do more. When it stops, then you stop. So you need to be clever in the flexibility of this solution. So we know enough for doing a lot of things already, at least in a clever way. So it is not really the more technology which we need to do that. It is what you already mentioned at the beginning. It is the institutions, it is the governments, it is people, right? I mean, I'm sorry to say, I've been invited to many of the international conferences, intergovernmental conferences, to many of the climate intergovernmental conferences every year. We are not making any progress. We are just talking and we are making resolutions. But if you look into the way how we proceed globally, we are still emitting every year more and more carbon dioxide. We are emitting more and more methane and nitrous oxide. And we just keep talking. So I think what needs to happen urgently to change the institutions in the way that they will actually be walking the talk rather than talking again and coming again with the resolution. So this is my recommendation and wish and hope this will happen, because to be frank, I'm losing my faith a little bit in the power of the intergovernmental meetings to solve this particular issue. So what it needs to engage people emotionally and practically, people like you and I. It needs a behavioral change. It needs that we have a belief in the future rather than be afraid of the future. I come to it in a minute then. And it also needs, to sort of understand how the institutions are working. I mean, governments, regional governments, state governments, international community. Because if you look at it, they don't function really very well, because we don't have one big star at the horizon to which we go, right? We are coming with our own interest. There are borders, political borders. Just look at the situation the last 2 years. We have a war in Europe, and that changed completely, things like energy and gas oil markets. Look what happened during the COVID time. Probably you know that the governments across the world, they released hundreds of billions to help the economies. So a couple of us in scientific leadership, we were very hopeful, because we hoped that some of these hundreds of billions will be invested into the sustainable transition. Didn't happen. You know which portion of these hundreds of billions went to the sustainable energies, for example? Less than 10%. The rest is invested again in the old economies, in the old infrastructures. So what we really need change there right now. So it's not you, me only, it's the institutional change, and actually to hold the leaders of the world responsible for what they are pledging, right? In this context. So without that, I'm very concerned that the sustainable transition will not happen then.
Yes, so very truly said by Sir that we need to make sure that we are not regretting of any action that we are exhibiting, and also an emotional catch is very important while exhibiting any what you could say decision as such. So Sir, the final question for today's interview: what advice would you like to give to our students of DY Patil International University in order to forge ahead and cement themselves in the scientific field?
You know, I've been professor for 35 years, and I have many students, and I enjoy every time with my students and with my colleagues. I think I will be very frank in this context. I think you are the future, not me, and not my colleagues at this level. And I think pretty much like I was critical about the global leaders that they are not walking the talk, I think us, academic leaders, your professor should also walk the talk. I think the first thing which I would like to say is to empower you, to give you real space to be part of the discussion, because we still don't have it. I don't talk about Greta Thunberg being invited to General Assembly to say something. I talk about genuine inclusion, right? I think you need to raise your voice and say, you know, we have ideas, we have hopes, we have a future, we would like to be on the table, right? So I don't know how it is organized here, but at all the levels of university, you should be at the table, this particular context. And I would say, most important, keep your hope and positivity, because the current world is, you know, you could easily get completely depressed because there are so many threats, right, across the world. There are so many complications, etc., etc. In a way, the world is becoming more divided again rather than cooperative. And I think keep hope, don't get depressed, don't get cynical, because sometimes, you know, there is an intention to, feeling to get cynical about all the developments then. And most important, change the paradigm and narrative. Because what I'm saying to my students, all these big threats, climate and the pandemics and all of these things which are around us, and I don't know what, of course these are big threats. But they are also big opportunities, my friends. Sometimes I'm telling to my students, we are at the age of the 21st new industrial revolution, which will be revolution number 5. Like in 1850, Manchester invented the steam engine revolution. Now we have a chance to take this threat as an opportunity, because this is a big trigger for innovations, right? This is a big trigger for new solutions. This is a big trigger for new economies, right? Etc., etc. So that's something which I think your generation hopefully will be able to bring to the world and change the values, because our values, which we are having as our generation, they are not any more fit for the purpose. I mean, Netherlands, for example, my students, my children, my grandchildren, she's so small. For example, they look at me like, you know, why do you need a car, right? We can share the car with five friends. Why do you need it? Why don't you just sell it? Good question, right now. So the values, you know, shared economy, you know, shared society, I think it's your values. So I think it's the future is really in your hands, and I would sort of use every opportunity to harness this future then. Don't get yourself, you know, caged. What I mean by caging is that, I know in India, the system is, this education system is built in a way that you are specializing very early, right? Which means it is sort of depriving you from being able to interact. If you are, for example, geographer, so you go too early to geography, I want you to talk to mathematics and to social science, because that makes you more complete. So I would also raise the voice and try to be, you know, more horizontal, more transdisciplinary, which will bring you, you know, into this position of to make the future. So maybe I said too much, but I actually believe what I said, because this is also something which I'm keeping my mind busy about. You know, what do we do in this stage of my career to actually help you as a generation of future, not just make statement, but actually empowering you the way which I just said. Thank you very much.
Yes, that was indeed an insightful and very enlightening piece of advice by you, sir. So I want to thank you for sharing your experiences and spending your valuable time with us. You are indeed an incredible influencer who is fostering young minds to contribute their best into the betterment of humanity. And thank you once again for being here. Thank you so much, and wish you good luck for your journey ahead.
Thank you so much. And I hope I am not the influencer the way you understand it, because I don't know how it works. That's the influencer on social media. So thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
That was Professor Paul Kabat talking to Students' Time reporter. Now let's watch our special segment which is scripted and presented by AI reporter of Students' Time.
The 21st century has been called as the age of biology because of the rapid advances in biological sciences and their applications in various fields, including medicine, agriculture, and biotechnology. Advancements in genetics, genomics, proteomics, and synthetic biology have led to breakthroughs in personalized medicine, gene therapy, and disease prevention. The study of the microbiome and the development of CRISPR gene editing technology have opened up new avenues for treating and curing previously untreatable diseases. Moreover, advancements in biotechnology have led to the development of novel crops that are more resistant to pests and disease, as well as the production of biofuels and other sustainable materials. Overall, the 21st century is the age of biology because of the immense potential that biological sciences hold in solving some of the world's most pressing problems and improving human lives in countless ways.
That's all for this episode of Students' Time. Do tell us how you like our program. You can send your feedback and suggestions on our email. Our email ID is studentstime@dypiu.ac.in. We will be back with fresh news stories again next week. Till then, stay tuned and think scientifically.